Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Isaiah Warlock here, back at it again with another tutorial. You already know who it is, you guys requested it, so here it is. This is how to sound like Bad Lad. As always, make sure you watch the whole video because I've got a bunch of great information for you guys, including a few vocal techniques to sound like Bad Lad, as well as how to mix Bad Lad style vocals. Just real quick before we jump into it, if you're not already, please consider subscribing. It's free. You can unsubscribe whenever you want, so you might as well, and it helps me out a lot. Also, a huge percentage of the people who watch my videos aren't actually subscribed. So if you do enjoy my videos, just don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Okay, so Bad Lad. Bad Lad is a very interesting artist. You guys know, I'm sure, that he is more or less a trap metal artist. He has some songs that are more on the metal side, and then definitely other songs that are more on the rap, hip-hop, trap side. And then he does a lot of combining them as well, like we see with a lot of these trap metal guys. And we are going to be talking primarily about his scream, how he does his scream and how to mix it. Now, his vocals are extremely unique. The first Bad Lad song I heard was Envy. And at first, I really didn't like it. I thought it was just like, oh, this guy has no idea how to scream or really even sing, and it just sounds really weird. But the more I listened to it, the more I liked it. So his songs like Envy and other songs where he does kind of a sing scream, I now actually really like that style when he does it. He also, of course, just does regular screaming without really using a melody. Okay, but the thing about Bad Lad is he's not really using any technique in particular that we've talked about before on this channel. He's not using fry, he's not using false chord, he's not even using kind of the compressed, the compressed kind of sing, screamy, raspy stuff that we see Zilla Kami do. He's doing something which I guess he just kind of figured out on his own, and he has a really weird kind of way of screaming, and that's what threw me off when I first heard him. But I've been listening to a lot of Bad Lad and practicing a lot, and I have now hopefully come out with a way to sound like Bad Lad, and a way to show you guys how to sound like him as well. So to sound like Bad Lad as far as his screams, you're going to need to do a few different things. One of them is mainly just kind of yell. So whenever you hear Bad Lad scream, you'll notice that almost all of the sound that you're hearing isn't distortion. And I'm not talking about like the effect distortion, like vocal distortion. Usually when you hear screaming, and like from any of the other artists I've done tutorials on, most of the sound that you're hearing is some kind of rasp, some kind of distortion, whether that's false chord or fry. But for Bad Lad, most of the sound you hear is him just kind of yelling, and sometimes you get a bit of grit, a bit of distortion somewhere in his scream, but it's usually not all the way through like you see with fry or false chord screams. So obviously you need to be very good at kind of yelling and also like singing with compression, and this is something we talked about in the Zilla Kami tutorial, so go check that one out if you haven't already. So it will be fairly helpful to know how to do compression, and I'll tell you in a second. But also when you do compression and try to scream with that, you get more of a Zilla Kami kind of sound. And that's not actually the sound that he uses. He yells with compression, and then the distortion, all the grit that he gets on top of it, which isn't very much, comes from more of a false chord kind of place. And he also finds it up in this weird kind of nasally area. But anyways, once again, the first step is to learn to yell with compression. So I've talked about this before. Compression basically is when you have air in your lungs and you're going to compress it like you would see gas compressed in some kind of tank. And the way you're going to do that is shut your vocal cords off. And when you make that sound, like you're lifting up something really heavy, shuts your vocal cords off. You're going to do that. Then you're going to push really hard with your diaphragm. Your diaphragm is a muscle which controls your lungs. It's right under here, your ribs. If you just kind of flex all your abs and all the muscles in this area, you'll also flex your diaphragm. So take in air, shut your vocal cords off, and then push. Like this. So when you compress your voice, you get this kind of sound, and then this is what you can use to yell. Okay, and then you can start to make kind of yelling sounds, and you can do it in a way that is very loud but also very supported, and you can do it for a long time. Now, just doing that compression isn't going to make you sound like Bad Lad yet. If you notice, he always finds his screams in this kind of nasally place. So the way to do that is, okay, just kind of move the sound around, and if you just kind of imagine where the sound is coming from, it helps to imagine that you have kind of like a ball of energy, okay? A lot of singing instructors talk like this. It sounds kind of weird and new agey, but it actually does work. If you just kind of imagine like you have like a ball of energy, and where that ball of energy is, like around you, imagine the sound is coming from there, and that'll change where the sound is resonating. And for Bad Lad, the sound is resonating in a very nasal place, in his sinuses all up in this area, okay? So for example, if a yell resonated more down here in your throat, in your mouth, it sounds like that. If it resonates higher up in your nasal area, it sounds more like that. So once you can do that, we now have to talk about this distortion that he gets, the grit in his voice, okay? And once again, this isn't something you're putting over the entire vocal. It's not like you're screaming and it's like a fry scream or something where the distortion is all the way through. It's usually just kind of, you yell and then you push it a bit harder to kind of get that grit usually at the end or something like that. And the kind of grit that he's getting, as I said, is sort of a false chord grit. So if you come up to the nasal area, you're gonna push, you're gonna compress, and the first thing that's gonna happen is you're going to get a little bit of that compression distortion like Zillakami uses. But that's not what we want. That's not the sound we want. We want to push it even harder and use your larynx to kind of come up in your throat and kind of come up in this area. And this is where you're going to find a bit of sort of false chord distortion, okay? And it's going to sound like this. Okay, it sounds a bit strange, but this is how he does it. And once again, you don't just want to stop at, it's not ear, it's not there. It's pressing even harder until you feel your throat rattling, okay? It's that kind of thing. Now, is it good for you to make this sound? Not really, okay? It's not really a very sustainable way of screaming, but it is the way Bad Lad screams as far as I can tell. This isn't going to completely blow out your voice. It's not going to cause any major injuries as long as you don't do it for too long, but it is going to cause you to lose your voice after doing it for a little while. But don't worry too much about that. If you do lose your voice, you'll be fine. I mean, any amount of singing or screaming after a while will cause you to lose your voice. It's a natural part of being a vocalist, so don't worry too much about that. But do be careful when trying to use this technique, because this is similar to just kind of doing a natural scream. It basically is just doing a natural scream, and as we know, that's not very good for your voice. Okay, so once again, compression, make it nasal. Press it till you find that, till you feel your throat rattling in that false chord kind of area. And there we have the sort of Bad Lad type scream. I need a reason, and there's no one here to tell me. I need a blessing, 'cause I'm just facing it happy. Okay, it sounds a bit silly. Also, it helps to kind of imagine that you're vomiting, but that does it does actually help with the sound a bit. It's just kind of a very natural sounding, like you're kind of disgusted, and you also maybe you're really sad, and you're just kind of like yelling in a kind of a weird nasally way. But that's how you do it. Hey guys, today's video is sponsored by my online vocal lessons. Do you want to learn how to scream, fry screaming, false chord, inhale screaming, sing screaming, and a bit of singing as well? Well, you can hit me up at my Instagram. Here's my Instagram, or in the comments of this video, or you can get my email from my about section of my channel, and let me know if you want to do some online one-on-one vocal lessons with me through Zoom or Skype or whatever you want. Okay, so that is how you sound like Bad Lad with your voice, more or less, okay? Now we're going to talk about how to mix these vocals. Now, as far as mixing these vocals, there's nothing that really we haven't seen before as far as these trap metal guys. It's, you know, effects that we use pretty much when we're mixing any kind of trap metal, but it is a lot of distortion, okay? That's the first thing. A lot of overdrive distortion, and when you listen to Bad Lad screaming, a lot of the distortion that you hear is just distortion added as an effect later. It's not that much distortion in his voice. As I said, the only distortion in his voice that he's getting is that weird kind of false chord, kind of nasally, high in your throat kind of sound that we've done. So you're gonna put on a pretty good amount of overdrive distortion. This is gonna make it sound more like a scream than just kind of a yell like what we were doing. And there's also a few different effects that he plays around with depending on the song, but one that you see him use fairly often is delay, also called echo. Depending on what program you're using, it could be either one, but delay and echo mean the exact same thing. Okay, so you're gonna put that on and just adjust the variables till it sounds good. He does use delay fairly often in songs. He also uses reverb sometimes. Also, I am showing you how to do this in Audacity because it's free and lots of people have Audacity already, but obviously you can do this in any DAW that you want to. After you put those two effects on, it should sound something like this.
I need a reason, and there's no one here to tell me. I need a blessing, 'cause I'm just facing it every day.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, and that is how you sound like Bad Lad. So thank you for watching. I hope you found this video useful. As I said, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. I'm Isaiah Warlock, and goodbye.
Surprise!